reason that I'm here is because the club is seeking change.
He said, well, whether you come or not, you're going to see a completely different Spurs team under me.
My hope and my desire and what I'm going to try and do is give our supporters hope and belief that we're going to embark on something special.
Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at Astetka. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 226, and Spurs are back in the win column. What a novel concept. We will get on to that, as well as everything else surrounding this club this week, which it's always something, isn't it? We've got Caroline alongside. She is at CG Stefco. Caroline, what's up with you on this fine Sunday?
I can't lie. I'm feeling a little bit weary, and not just because it's been storming here for days on end. It feels like it's been storming over Tottenham too. So
the clouds are gathering for sure. It does feel that way. TC is back with us as well. He is at the Todd Father. Todd, what is up, my man?
Oh, any day that you get together with your friends and have a chat about Spurs winning a Premier League match is a good fucking day. So that's what we're going to focus on. Europa League quarterfinalists. That's still a thing that still exists, despite the state of things. And if you listen to anything on social media, the sky is definitively fucking falling around North London right now. But no, it's as far as I'm looking at it. Matthias Tell scored a banger of a penalty today. I'm a happy guy. Let's go.
We're going to come on to that as well. I know there's some opinions to be shared on that penalty as well.
Still not a striker. Anyhow.
Before we do any of that, I want to remind everyone to head on over to digitalspurs.com for your latest Tottenham merch. We're talking t-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, hats, so much more. If you're watching us on YouTube today, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot, you can see TC rocking a Digital Spurs cap and hoodie, and Caroline's rocking a cap as well. We love digitalspurs.com. Everyone knows this. Let them know that we here at the Tottenham Depot sent you. Head on over there for some good Tottenham merch. Guys, let's, instead of talking about victory, start our pod in Stamford Bridge, where Spurs went on Thursday and I would say suffered a 1-0 loss. It's more like just accepted a 1-0 loss, like just kind of bowed down to Chelsea in this match. I went back to watch, some of the highlights this morning, and I just was refreshing my brain and thinking, okay, that's another Spurs Chelsea match that just went the way that it did. It didn't feel remarkable in any way to me. It felt kind of very standard. A lot of standard bullshit that went on throughout the 90 minutes. TC, I know you are like itching and scratching to get off your takes on this one, so I'm just going to throw it over to you. What did you take out of Chelsea 1, Tottenham Hotspur 0 from Thursday?
We went to Stamford Bridge and lost a close match. We got hard done by on multiple refereeing decisions, and VAR absolutely fucked us, as they tend to do at least once a year in a Chelsea match. So it's pretty par for the course, to be fair. When you win one time in 30 years at a place, you don't go there, especially midweek, especially coming off of an international break. Like, you don't go there with confidence if you're a realist at all. So I didn't go there with confidence. But I watched the match with my oldest as we were on a college trip, and Sarr scored that banger from outside the box. And I, like a fucking idiot, celebrated. I was so excited.
So did Ange Postecoglou, by the way.
And the reason why is because Ange and I both watched the referee give Sarr the play there. And this is the first time in the history of the Premier League that a play has been given for the offensive team. The offensive team went down and scored a goal, and the play has been brought back by VAR to chalk off the goal because of the foul on the impending player, despite the fact that the referee gave it in the offensive player's direction. I look at that, as Ange did, and say, this is not the game that it used to be. I looked at my oldest when we were in the car on that college trip when they chalked that goal off, and I said, I fucking hate watching every part of Tottenham Hotspur play football right now. And that is how I feel.
That's you're not wrong on any of that. I do like what you say about this was I wouldn't say evenly contested match, but if you look at this match statistically, this was not a beatdown. It was a 1-0,
It's a rivalry match, dude. We played scratching, fighting, clawing, biting, like it's a standard rivalry London derby in at the Bridge where we don't fare well.
That's exactly what it was, and the difference is, a set piece header, which Spurs are notoriously just pissing down their leg constantly on trying to defend. And Fernandez heads it home, and that was kind of all she wrote. I felt like, Caroline, what about you? Like, this was one of those where it was just like, okay, it felt like standard business to me. It felt like I said, Spurs didn't roll over and take it. There was some fight there. There was some effort, but it just felt like this was always the way that this match was going to go, right?
Right. I mean, it just does feel like we're a bit cursed when it comes to Chelsea. And I think for me, the frustration is just that it's been so long since we've conceded a goal where the team actually had to work for it. Like, we've just given up so many easy goals, and that includes the game that we just watched this morning. But I do agree. It was close. We had a few chances that were decent. I feel like it's probably not ideal that two of them were for a center back. I'm just not sure what exactly the plan is on the attack these days. Unless it's, Brennan Johnson going into beast mode, because that works every once in a while. But yeah, I shared some frustration with the officiating, because I do think, was it Craig Pawson? I think he really just let things get out of hand. But at the same time, on the Sarr goal, I was surprised in the moment that he let the play go on. I thought it was a foul live, so it didn't really surprise me too much that VAR called it back. Like, I feel like upon looking back at it, it was a foul. You can argue that I think it was Caicedo was kind of looking for it, but that's just smart play. But I did celebrate it, just because I was shocked that the shot went in at all.
Yeah,
that was kind of thrilling to watch. But
I'm where you are there too. Like, I was surprised that the official let the play go on, but then I was even more surprised when VAR comes back and decides, no, we're actually not going to let that go on. The VAR of it all, and look, we have not done a ton of referee scrutiny or VAR scrutiny on this pod in the last handful of months, mostly because what does it really matter? Like
we've been beating ourselves. That's the thing.
Correct.
Yeah, but exactly. They haven't really needed to do much to job us over, because we've been doing a fine enough job of pissing away terrible goals on our own. But in a situation like this, where it's clearly the definitive moment of the game, I feel like the rub of the green doesn't apply when you're wearing lily white.
Well, and you can make really the argument that it was not a clear and obvious error. But that's, again, my issue that I always have with VAR is that it's subjective. It's a way where
it's entirely
VAR
subjective.
Booth can bail out their buddy on the pitch. So I don't know.
Entirely subjective. We saw it today.
But my biggest complaint with VAR in these last, like, I'm talking specifically about Chelsea, but yeah, you're right, Todd. We could talk about the Southampton match and the VAR review in that match as well. My biggest issue has been the issue that I actually never had with VAR early on in its infancy, I guess you could say, and that's the time that it's taking. It's simply killing games now. And
5 minutes to get that offside today.
Right, and I know as of next week we're supposed to be getting the semi-automated offside thing coming into play. By next match week round, I believe, and
yet we get no fucking consistency as Ramsdale handles the fucking ball outside of the box, and there's no yellow card. Like, and this is the whole thing, Andrew, is that, like, what this boils down to is that we're seeing a lack of consistency from the officials on the pitch. We're seeing a lack of efficiency from the way that VAR calls are being adjudicated. We're seeing a lack of efficiency between what replays are being shown and being utilized for VAR and what are just being let go. It really feels like a phrase that needs to be said in this moment. narrative affirming decisions. And I haven't brought it out in a long time because we've been bad. But at the end of the day, when you start looking at the little things, Chelsea beats us 1-0 because that goal was chalked off. They win again today. That's enough points to secure their Champions League spot. Like,
well,
you got to.
Luckily, they didn't win today. They drew today, but still,
thank God. But this is like it's like little tweaks change the things.
Yeah,
like just little fucking minuscule things in the moment have the butterfly effect shit on the rest of our season, and it's really tough. Like, think about the Chelsea game last year and the butterfly effect that's had on Ange's time at Tottenham Hotspur.
And the other thing about the SAR moment with VAR that was so perplexing was the fact that he was given a yellow card for the foul. I did not think VAR was allowed to give yellow cards or recommend.
It never happened.
Because it's never happened. But it happens to Tottenham. It's like, it makes us sound paranoid, but at the same time, we do tend to be on the end of these like first VAR moments.
You mean like the Lucas Moura getting bowled over and having the ball ricochet off his shoulder and having VAR call it a handball?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and little shit like that. Oh, you mean like the Musa Sissoko in the Champions League final where the rule gets changed in the offseason because it's so fucking terrible? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about what you're talking about, Cass.
I still go back to, look, the calls are not going Tottenham's way, which is obviously what we're going to bitch about for good reason. But to me, it still just comes down to these decisions are taking entirely too long. I mean, even the Caicedo goal that they ruled out, which is a call that did go in Spurs' favor, it took so long to figure out something so obvious. And that's the part for me that, look, football is an entertainment product. Let's be honest with ourselves. Like, that's why networks pay top dollar to air it. That's the case with all sport. It's not entertaining to sit and watch lines being drawn, especially when you know that those lines are probably mostly bullshit,
entirely subjective.
And that's not entertaining. We want to see action. Part of the reason that this game is so beautiful is because it's constant action for 90 minutes. And these decisions are slowing down. I mean, games used to be played in, an hour 45, hour 50 minutes of real time. And now they're taking objectively 2 hours, more than 2 hours. I mean, this is the same problem that the game of baseball had over the years with the games getting too long. Football matches are too long now because of all these damn reviews and then the added extra time to the game, which is contributing more and more to player injuries and everything. It's a snowball and it's just rolling down the hill, and something needs to be done about it. So I'm more pissed off about the extent that we're going to dissect and tear apart all these decisions and how long that's taking than the fact that all the calls are going against Tottenham. Because like we said at the top of this discussion, Tottenham are doing enough to shoot themselves in the foot that they don't really need the help of, everyone else going up against them. So I did want to talk about the moment though with Ange, because I know that really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I'll be honest, I watched this match on Thursday, many hours after it was completed, having stayed far away from social media, which I would suggest for anyone to do, because it's really nice. And I kind of missed all of this. So I've caught up in the last few days as to what happened, but in the moment, I did not catch Ange getting stick from the supporters for subbing Pop Sarr on for Lucas Bergvall, and then cupping the ear when Sarr scored, and then having to obviously uncup the ear when the Sarr goal was chalked off. I kind of missed all of it in the moment. So looking back at it in retrospect, it feels petty and weird and awkward. And Caroline, I know that this was, I don't know if I want to call it the moment where you kind of flipped on Ange, but it kind of felt that way to me, at least based on our discussions over the last few days. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong. This really was like a final straw moment for me, because I feel like I have been someone who has been very willing to defend Ange long past the point where a lot of folks have. And a lot of that is because I realized that this cycle we get into of changing the manager every 18 months is unhealthy for the club. And I don't want it to come to the point where he needs to be let go. But at the same time, like, he's not. He just doesn't inspire me anymore as a leader, I think is kind of where I'm at. And the big part, I know you want to say something, Todd, but let me finish. The big thing here is that a lot of us didn't even notice this moment in the game. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't see it because I was, as I said before, screaming about Sarr's shot going in. But it could have just gone away, but he really made it worse after the game because he was asked about it. And he basically feigned shock about being even asked the question and acted like he didn't know what they were talking about. And then he said, "Oh, I was just telling the away support to cheer more." Frankly, I just don't buy it. And people, this is subjective. People can believe him if they want to. I don't.
What do you believe? What do you believe?
I believe that he was trying to throw it in the away fans' faces that Sarr scored a goal because he thought they were criticizing him for bringing Sarr on. When I think the situation is they were upset about Lucas coming off because he had been pretty much the only good performer in the game up until that moment. So
we've also got a game on Sunday. And this man is paid to be a professional manager of a professional football team. And you got a bunch of fucking...
Todd, there's the word. I think this is lack professionalism.
Hold on a goddamn second. And the reason why is because we're looking at 8 months of everyone being like, "Are you fired yet? Hey, you're going to get fired this week. Are you fired yet? You're a piece of shit. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. It doesn't matter that your entire team is injured. You're fucking terrible. Your high line is stupid." It doesn't matter whether it's the fans or whether it's the fucking media. No one has done anything except for take fucking bets on when this guy was going to get fired all fucking season. And my whole point is he is a man. He is a man first. He is a human being. And you only have, as much of a professional as you could be, as much of a stoic as you can be, you only have so much until you're pushed to your breaking point where it's like, shut the fuck up. I don't come and tell you how to deliver bread. Maybe you don't tell me how to run a fucking football team. And I can't stand by and be like, "Oh, Ange needs to be more professional. There's no way that he should show any emotion like that towards fans who have been literally calling for his fucking head for 6 months, despite the fact that he doesn't have, still today, all of the weapons required in his arsenal to make this team run effectively. Today, he doesn't have that. So, do I think that it's a good idea that Ange gets into a tit for tat with the fans? Absolutely not. Do I agree with you that he could have had more of a professional tact in that moment? Of course I do. But I am not going to chastise the man for having a moment of humanity in a very tumultuous season where he made a decision that was roundly criticized by the away fans in a hostile environment. That's going to help out a lot. And the decision that he made actually worked out favorably in the moment, despite the fact that VAR chalked it off. I cannot disparage that man for being like, "Shut the fuck up and go back and be a plumber." Like, I can't get mad at him for that, Andrew.
So I see and I hear both of your points. I guess where I would really agree with you, Todd, is the point that I saw Ange made in I guess this would have been the pre-Southampton press conference where he did the little bit with the phone. I do think that there's a real point to be made by Ange about fans coming up to him, recording him with their phone, trying to get a reaction. That's the antagonistic thing where I'm not going to stand for. Anything Ange wants to say about fans recording him in that way, which we've seen a lot of. We've seen it with him walking down the tunnel after matches and him turning back. I mean, we've seen players have to pull him away from these instances. That I'm not going to get on board with at all. I'm going to totally back Ange in that moment and say, if he wants to tell a fan to fuck off for recording him, yes, agree with that. When it comes to the other side of it, when it's supporters digging him out over a decision in the middle of a game, like that has mob mentality to it. That has groupthink to it. So I can't really, I can't really get down on fans about that. Like, That's
so does the shit
fine.
after the games. It's the same fucking behavior, Andrew.
Well, no,
it's
those
the
are
same
individuals. No, those are individuals being assholes. That's what that is.
Well, you don't think that there's a mob mentality of people standing around? He's not the guy holding the phone is not the only one who's cursing at Ange in that moment, bro. Like that is the group think of football supporters that says this is our club. We've loved this club from before you. We'll love this club after you, and we have a right to say whatever the fuck we want. And it's like, on the one hand, I completely understand that. But to your point, don't stick your phone in a man's face and expect him not to respond like someone does when they're pressed. Don't back an animal into a corner and expect it not to strike you. That's going to happen.
And that's where I'm at.
Like, can I just say, he's not an animal. He's a Premier League manager. Like, this is part of the job. And other managers do not engage in this kind of petty behavior.
I disagree entirely. That's wild.
Other than like Jose Mourinho, who's
Roy Hodgson at Crystal Palace did this same shit earlier in the season. Well, we're just going to end this interview right now. If you suck, like, no, dude, like they're people. They're people. I'm not saying it's not a bad look, Kaz. But what I'm saying is when you get pressed, how do you respond?
I try to calm down and not react in a way that I'm going to regret later on. And I think
if someone
responsibility to do that, frankly.
If someone presses you for 8 months in a row, where you don't have all of your weapons available to you, you don't have the ability to show your best, and you're just standing there answering the same version of the same question over and over and over again.
How did this help the situation that the club and the team are in? That's my other.
How does that happen? Those two things are entirely mutually exclusive right now.
I disagree with that.
The reason why I say they're mutually exclusive is because we haven't once in the last 5 minutes talked about the team, the club, the boot room. We've talked about Ange. And so these people are coming at Ange. All right? And if you come at Ange, Ange is going to respond to you like you're coming at Ange. You come at the team, Ange has shown throughout his time at Tottenham the professional decorum to talk to you about the team respectfully, even if you ask him stupid questions.
The players are being implicated in this too, though, if you think about it. Like, this is Sarr being pitted against Bergvall, essentially. You know, and it didn't have to be that way, but that's the way that Ange chose to frame it. And for me, the biggest issue is still the fact that he wouldn't own up to it after the game. And even in that pre-Southampton press conference, he kind of joked about it and was like, oh, I celebrated a goal. Y'all are upset about that. No, Ange, like, that's not what the problem was. He's being deliberately obtuse, I feel.
And for me, it comes down more to the fact that Ange. Look, we can talk about the team, we can talk about the boot room, the players, all of it.
But we haven't been. That's my point.
But there's one figure that has put himself, and look, we put him, the chairman puts him, everyone puts the manager, and this is not exclusive to Spurs. This is exclusive to any major football club. He is the figurehead and the face of this organization right now. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm not even going to talk about professionalism or anything, but when it comes down to it, I don't care who's been available. I know that we can go all the way back to November of 2 years ago in that Chelsea match. And you, like you said, that's kind of when the worm turned after those first 10 matches and all the ups and downs that this club has faced since that moment. But in the end, all of it is a collective, and this club has performed so poorly in the grand scheme of things. The club as a whole has performed so poorly. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the figurehead reacting in that way, mm-hmm. he's not bitching about not having players. He's not bitching about not getting enough investment. He knows that the job is bigger than that, and that he has to get through all of those adverse moments.
That's certainly one way to look at it. Another perspective that I may offer you is this is the worst Tottenham Hotspur season that we've seen in 2 decades almost.
Maybe even more, yeah.
2 decades, right about. It's 20 years, I want to say. We just today had our first player in Brennan Johnson score double-digit Premier League goals. That just happened today. We have Son, who is nowhere near his best. We have Madison, who looks like a complete bust right now. We have Cudi Romero, who has played slightly more games for us than he's missed through injury or suspension. And that is our leadership core, with Vicario, who missed half the season with a broken leg. Okay. And the other guy in there is Decky, and Decky's out with a broken foot. And so in a season where we have underperformed on the pitch, not collectively as a team, though we have, but at the individual level of the people that we needed to count on the most, we're talking about Ange Postecoglou.
Well,
and so what I would say to you, as someone who has had to lead teams that have missed performance numbers in the past, being able to keep the focus on you as a leader, knowing that you can weather the storm and knowing that there are things going on behind the scenes that the numbers don't fully explain. Keeping your focus on you instead of singling out underperforming members of your team is the way that you galvanize an organization. And I feel like, despite the fact that everybody's talking about Ange showing chinks in the armor of his professionalism at this moment in time, that this man has done nothing but kept that locker room together through one of the toughest seasons that any of those players have endured.
I think time will tell whether that's true or not, because there is the little business of the Europa League, and while it's probably unfair to put everything on a cup run, that's what happens when you've performed as terribly as you have in all other assets of the season. You know, when you're sitting currently in 13th position and just the games objectively do not matter.
It was 16th at the beginning of the morning. Just saying.
Right. That's fine. That's fine. It's bad. It's bad is bad. Bad versus bad is still bad.
Well, and to circle back to your original question to me, Andrew, this, I think, frustration that I have with Ange has been building over the season. So it wasn't just this one isolated incident. Like it's honestly, I've been criticizing him for weeks over team selection, rotation, how he's handled balancing the league with the cups, or not handling it, I should say. So it's, you know, and there's just a lot of little things too about like the way he's handled press conferences this season. I'm just kind of fed up with his attitude in general. And like I said, I get people are going to have different opinions. For me, I will not care one way or the other whether he's the manager at the end of the season.
I completely hear you, and frankly, don't agree, don't disagree. I've reached the point of not being Ange in any longer. I'm also not Ange out. I'm very much Ange indifferent at this point, which I know is a cop out. And as the host of the show, I'm
Ange Gnostic right now. You're Ange Gnostic.
That's a good way to put it. I'm very Ange Gnostic. Like, and you're right, Caroline. Like, everyone's opinion will differ. I guess where I net out on all of this is I can't really be fully Ange out because I don't see the better plan in place to fix. And I've also seen this pattern of managers not making it, 36 months with this club, and how poorly that has gone over the last half decade now, ever since Mauricio Pochettino departed. So I basically I'm left in a lurch of I don't know. Like I'm just very whatever. Like I want us to go win the Europa League. I also know there are people out there who wouldn't want that to happen because it might save Ange's job, which I think is objectively the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But like that's literally where we are with some people, that they're so anti this guy that they just want him out no matter what.
And to my very point, and I think that this is like, you can't fire Levy, because I think what fans really want is Levy out.
Right.
And we saw those protests today, and I don't think that can go unsaid. The largest anti-Daniel Levy protest that Tottenham Hotspur has ever seen happened today before the Southampton match.
And until the next one. It's always the largest one until the next one.
No, hold on. No, hold on. Don't downplay this. Because it started. It's not. Well, do what you want to do. But this started out weeks ago as 25 people. And now there are hundreds of people. This isn't something that's going away. This is something where those calls are only getting louder. And so my point was that Ange just kind of shouldered the brunt of the criticism for a failed season to this point. And like, I think Levy values that. But I also think that if Ange brings home a European trophy, I think there's going to be a lot of these people that start piping down. And you won't hear from them. They're not going to come out and support Ange, but you just won't hear from him until his time at Spurs is about run its course, and then they'll pop back out of the woodwork and tell you how they've always hated him and he should have gone 3 years ago. So I really look at Ange as a polarizing figure because he doesn't fit the mold that English media have of a manager, of a Premier League manager. He just doesn't.
Oh, I definitely think that's a part of the Ange animosity, the Angemosity.
And so take that the Angemosity for sure, and then take that and extrapolate it out over a public and a fan base that listens to that media.
Yeah,
on a regular basis and reads that media on a regular basis. And then those are the things that they're putting. And you couple that with purple and gold and fucking Nick and all this stuff, and it's a snowball.
Media literacy, not just an American problem, for sure. I hear that point. I hear that point clearly, but I get what you're saying, and all of it is true. And I do think it's unfair to just chalk off Ange Postecoglou because of where he's from. Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I bitch and moan all the time when people chalk off American fans like the three of us just because of where we're from. Like, that's not fair. So why would it be any different for, even though he is the figurehead and the face of the club right now, why would it be any different for the manager? I hear you. Before we move on from the Chelsea game, because we haven't even really dove into the Southampton match at all yet, is there anything that we should say about the incident just before half involving Christian Romero and Chalobah? This felt like standard business to me when it comes to Cuti Romero. I know there's been a lot of Cuti Romero discourse in the last few weeks and months, but this just felt like Spurs Chelsea, and it felt like something's going to happen here. And I think it led into the rest of the bullshit involving VAR and just how poorly the match was officiated. But are there any shots we need to get off on that incident in a nutshell?
Not really. I'm accepting that this is what's going to happen, you know. And
we've reached the point of acceptance with Cuti Romero.
Yeah, we're lucky he didn't get a card, you know, to get sent off.
And he got a cheeky one sent. He got a cheeky one later, but yeah, it's par for the course. It's par for the course.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk about a win then. Southampton came into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday and got themselves relegated. They needed a win. They did not get it. Spurs win it 3-1. Brennan Johnson, a brace. Very, very, very Brennan Johnson goals, just in the right place at the right time and doing Brennan Johnson things. All this guy does is score goals, which is somehow a detriment to him by many of the fan base, which I still find objectively hilarious.
A lot of those same folks want Ange out, by the way.
Well, you know what's funny? I do get the people that say like all Brennan Johnson does is score goals. Like, I get what they're saying. I understand the point, but like, you do realize how stupid you sound when you say that, right? Like, I hope there's a little bit of self-awareness when it comes to that.
It's similar to when Sonny like has a goal and an assist in a game, and folks say, "Oh, he was nowhere. He did nothing." And it's like,
right.
Well, you know, sure, but the stats also don't lie.
Right. He contributed to 2 goals. Look, there's no other way to put it. This match didn't really do anything for me. Southampton are terrible. I'm not sure they would finish in the top half of the championship this season. That's how bad they are. They're going to have that opportunity next season, obviously, but this was a fine first half in which Spurs built themselves a 2-goal lead. And then the second half for me was just objectively a terrible, terrible watch. It did not fill me with any kind of confidence going into Thursday's match against Eintracht Frankfurt. It filled me, in fact, with just the opposite. It felt lackluster. Spurs even conceded a goal late to make it 2-1 before getting the late penalty, which I do want to come on to as well, because there was some awkwardness there. But I'm not going to try and just say, let's dwell on the negative after a 3-1 victory over Southampton. But man, that second half was rough, Todd.
Come on. Did you listen to the game? Did you have the commentary up?
I mean, I had it on low. I wasn't really paying attention to it. I was just watching the game.
Because they were trying to.
Southampton,
Southampton came out in the second half and completely changed their entire structure. They changed everything that they were doing. And it took about 20 minutes for us to kind of settle in and figure out what the fuck was going on. Mm-hmm. And so,
not a good sign, by the way.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Right. Like I'm looking at it going, okay, so they had 70% of the possession for the first part of the second half, did Southampton. They didn't do anything with it. Like there wasn't any time where we felt overly stressed or stretched by what they were up to.
But
They didn't score. Hold on. No, they didn't score their goal until we made our defensive substitutions and fucking Basuma got caught in Basuma no man's land.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, I'm looking at it going, well, we just played a really emotional derby where people got banged up on Thursday. We've got the most important match of our season so far coming up this following Thursday. And we're playing the worst fucking team in the league right now. If I'm Ange, I tell him to kind of coast a little bit. Like, get this dub, but keep it easy. And you guys sit there and go, blah, blah, blah. But I'm over here going, we got 3 games in 7 days, and 2 of them matter way more than the Southampton match. One's in the rearview mirror, and one's coming up.
I hear
so
you.
all I said was, let's get our 37 points. And once we get our 37 points, we're safe. And no matter what the fuck else happens in the league, we can focus on Europe. Well, guess what? Today we got our 37th point. We're safe, officially staying up, not in a relegation battle. Now let's go win the fucking Europa League.
Yeah, I get that perspective. My problem is that we've seen many times this season what happens when we coast our way into an important cup game. And, you know, it's just been a matter of, I think, morale this season has been too inconsistent, just as much as, you know, that
they're exhausted, Jazz.
Yeah, they are. But like at the same time, you know, we've got players back from injury. We had that extended international break essentially since we weren't in the FA Cup. So I'm just not sure those excuses apply at this point. And some of that's got to come down on Ange for his team selection, obviously, and the subs that he makes. But I don't know. I just didn't feel great about how the second half played out. Like Southampton are horrible. And for us to like let it get that close at the end, I don't know. I didn't feel great about it. The vibes feel off. I feel like, you know, clean sheets don't matter that much in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of like building some momentum, I think that really would have been a good way to head into the Europa League game. And, you know, we just kind of took our eyes off the ball as we tend to do and let in a really easy goal. And I don't know. I don't feel good about going into this Frankfurt game at all.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I side on the fact that like this was the opportunity, especially in that second half, not to coast. It was to put your foot on the gas and charge into Thursday with some momentum. And
with the subs, with
no, dude, okay, well, dude, you know, what I hear
you saying is go hard in the paint against the worst team in the league and not be full strength heading into Thursday.
When you say go hard in the paint, what exactly are you saying? I'm not saying go out there and
you're saying let's go out in the second half and step on their neck and let's go 5-0 and we'll, you know, blah 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 blah. I hear you. But if you come out, they're not playing the way that they were playing before. You're having to switch everything up. You look at it and it takes you 20 minutes to get settled. Okay, now you're at 60, 65 minutes. Now we're time to make subs. We're starting to rotate. I'm thinking entirely differently. Right. So like the thing is like in-game strategy is going to change on the fly based off of what's happening on the pitch. And so, you know, you go in with the best intentions and you come out with a 3-1 victory and you're 37th point to stay up and everybody's healthy and I don't think anybody got an egregious card today. So I think you were able to, and now we get to go into Thursday with a full squad, rested relatively, and ready to go get it. And we've done exceptionally well in the Europa League this season so far. So all things point positive, despite the fact that we didn't step on their neck.
I don't see it that way. I simply don't. I don't think this was a.
So you think we sputtered to a 3-1 victory, and now we're flailing going into Thursday?
Absolutely, I do. Yes, I think this was not a great performance from the club, especially in the second half. I thought this was a very boring, lackluster effort against a team that legitimately has nothing to play for. They know they're getting relegated. And not only that, they're terrible. Like just from a levels standpoint, from a talent standpoint, they are not good. And I just thought that the second half left a lot to be desired. It felt a little bit like a wet fart going into what should be your biggest, like the build up to what should be the biggest match, and you should be at your highest level. And it felt like a wet fart. I don't have any.
It sounds as though those rain clouds have moved to North London, directly over the top of the Tottenham Depot podcast right now.
It's what it feels like.
Because all I'm hearing is this status fucking shit.
You feel confident going into this 2-leg tie over 2 weeks against
There's
Frankfurt?
nothing about this team makes me feel confident at all, Andrew. But what I'm saying is that a lackluster second half against Southampton is not the reason for my discomfort. My reason for my discomfort is because I can't guarantee that Romero and Van de Ven are going to play together. And when Romero and Van de Ven don't play together, we're fucking suspect. Like, I don't really know what else you want to say about that. Well, I'm frustrated because I don't know whether Decky's going to be there. Okay? And when we don't have Decky on the pitch, we're not as good of a fucking football team.
It's all fair.
So, like, as we're having these conversations, none of this has anything to do with morale or how bad we did against Southampton in the second half. We won fucking 3-1. What are we talking about? Like, I just feel like they went down a goal and then we gave a goal back. Sure. It made it a little, clenched butthole. It's Tottenham. It's part of the deal. But then we go down. We play the Ange system. Nobody wants to talk about that right now, but we play the Ange system. We get Brennan Johnson one-on-one in the box, a clumsy tackle by Southampton's left back, who's fucking terrible, admittedly, and we're able to get that goal right back. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that if you have a lackluster second half and you give a goal back, what the team showed me was the fight that I want to see when you give a goal back, when you're kind of coasting, to go back and get that 2-goal cushion right back. And that's exactly what we did.
Caroline?
I hear you. I do. But even like the way the penalty played out left a weird taste in my mouth.
That's where I wanted to get to next. It was very awkward.
And I know this is very much like a, subjective, touchy-feely vibe sort of situation. But I just didn't love that there was even a question of who was going to take the penalty. Personally, I thought it should have been Brennan since he was on a hat trick. He won the penalty. Like, if that doesn't give him the right to take it, I don't know what does.
He literally said to tell hat trick. He was pointing at us.
I know, but then and to be fair to Brennan, it looked like he kind of was like, okay, Matthias, he needs his first Premier League goal. I'm going to let him take it. Like, good leadership, Brennan. But I don't know. But then at the same time, Matthias is in a situation where he's desperate for a goal because Ange has only given him, 3 minutes plus stoppage in a given game. Like,
because our captain plays in his position.
Well,
and so,
but he can play across the entire forward line.
What are you gonna set him for Brennan? I'm not gonna set him for Solanke. Solanke is the reason why our press works.
I'm just saying that we're getting to a situation where he might not want to stay at Tottenham, even if we do want to sign him at the end of the season.
It's fully projection. It's fully projection. And I understand your frustration. I really, really do. But what I want to say is that was a cold penalty from Matthias Tell. That was cold. And we don't have a lot of cold penalty takers at Tottenham Hotspur right now. We don't. We don't have a Harry Kane.
And we might have one less if he leaves the club after his loan. So, anyway.
Yes, Kaz, that's very true. But my point on this here is, I think Brennan made the team first call and got his buddy a much needed first Premier League goal, and I think that may go a long way to him deciding to stay. And that's just as much projection as what you said, Kaz, but I'm going to take it and make it positive.
Well, and I'll add one further, armchair psychologist moment, which is that it struck me as a little awkward that his France under 21s or under 23s teammate was the only one who really celebrated with him. I mean, it just feels to me
he had a nice embrace with Brennan after the goal where they grabbed each other by the back of the head and they had a little moment right there.
Later.
And I thought that's what I was waiting for. I was like, how does Brennan, like, I know, let's see how Brennan does with him. Let's see how Brennan does. And when Brennan came over and showed love, I was like, okay, we're good. This is what they wanted.
I don't know. I just feel like the squad is in a weird place right now. And again, we're heading into the most important game of the season. And it didn't have to be the most important game of the season, but because of the way Ange has handled everything up until this point, you know, we're in this situation where we've got a home leg first in the knockout tie. And if we don't win this game, I don't know. It's going to be bad.
It would be an exclamation point to the worst season, the worst injury-riddled season this club has seen. You can't shake your head at it, Kaz. If you're going to talk about the things that Ange didn't do along the way, let's talk about the things that Ange didn't have available along the way as well.
But I have been on record as saying that even at times when he had limited choices, he still was making choices, and I did not agree with many of them along the way. So,
well, I don't think, like, I see where you're. I certainly see where you're at on that. But when it comes to like player substitutions and things like that in game, like I have a really hard time criticizing Ange because they have intimate, technologically sound data on these players' fitness levels and when they're ready and when they're not ready and when they have the ability. Hold on. And when they have the ability to produce their best effort and when they don't. And we're not privy to that data. And so when he looks over to the bench and he picks player A, when we're going, well, why didn't you start player A and fucking sit down player C who's been playing like shit?
What we may not tell him.
What we may not know.
Play Jed Spence because he felt like testing him.
Listen, what I can say is that despite your feelings about that particular conversation, whatever Ange did fucking worked. Jed Spence, since he started playing, has been lights out for us. And maybe it took whatever Ange seasoning was going on behind the scenes for Jed Spence to get to that point in time. We don't know. So I hasten to speculate on stuff.
He might have picked up if he had been playing all that time. I'm just saying.
I mean, if we want to play the what if game, you know, if fucking Pedro Porro had wheels, he'd be a bicycle. But that doesn't change the situation as to where we are right now. Okay,
I want to push back on you briefly, Todd, on the like crediting the proprietary medical information of that team, because that's a unit that you've been the most critical of anything. So why are we relying so much on the data and player availability from that group? You're
conflating things right now. Okay, there is a small portion of the Venn diagram where the sports performance team and the medical staff get together. Okay, the sports performance team handles things entirely differently than the medical staff team. Okay,
well, maybe that's maybe they should be more in sync.
I mean, if you want to call it out that way, that's fine. But what I would say is that we've had a significant overhaul in the medical staff this year, and it's corresponded with the worst rash of injuries we've ever seen.
Well, and so we saw Romero's criticism of it a few weeks ago. So I get what you're saying.
It's a big fucking problem, and I've been saying it's been a big fucking problem for years. But
I always have a problem with trying to criticize player availability because there's just so much we don't know. And
yes,
like, I hate commenting on things we don't know about. So when it comes to that stuff, I can like sit back and say, I don't know why that sub was made. Maybe there's something we don't know. I'm always comfortable like playing the I don't know card. And again, maybe that's a cop out, but it's okay to not know something in my
right. Well, I mean, especially because we don't get the type of unfettered access to Premier League players as we do to, like, say, NFL players or NBA players over here. Right. And so because of that, there's a lot of guessing that we do. And from an American perspective, you know, we kind of make inferences based off of the way that players are interacted with over here. And it's just entirely different. And the way that clubs kind of shield and, in the case of Daniel Levy, flat out fucking lie about what our players are up to and how they're being addressed. We don't have. I think that's one of the things that makes it the hardest for us as American fans to look at this game as objectively as we want to, is that we don't have all of the information that we're used to having when it comes to trying to make a decision about what's going on with players.
Well, with all of that said, we are entering a week with just there's no other way to put it. The only match that matters of the season. So with that said, and not really knowing, I mean, we did get a little bit of information earlier in the week on both Decky and Danso. Both are probably still a few weeks away, according to Ange Postecoglou. So likely not involved for the Frankfurt match on Thursday. Maybe the second leg, I guess, would put them potentially in that realm of possibility. But what's this starting 11 look like? We talked a little bit about the front line and kind of the mixing and matching that can be done there. The midfield, obviously, we would expect a Romero Van de Ven center back pairing to be back in full force. But what's this starting 11 going to look like for this match on Thursday? Because it's obviously a big one. Frankfurt are, by the way, coming off a defeat. They lost their Bundesliga match on Saturday. So they'll have an extra day of rest coming into it, but coming off defeat, I don't really know what Ange is going to do. And I'm interested, but obviously all of our interest is going to be pointed to this match on Thursday, because as we've been saying for weeks now, it's the only thing that matters. So what would you guys like to see in terms of a starting 11 against Frankfurt on Thursday?
Well, I think what I really want to see is a fullback pairing of Spence and Porro, because I struggle with Destiny this season because I think he really has improved a lot in terms of his attacking ability, but his defense continues to scare the crap out of me. So I really just would feel more comfortable with Spence and Porro. And this is a big call, and probably it's made a little easier by the fact that he scored 2 goals today, but I think I would opt for Brennan over Wilson, just for experience, frankly. You know, I felt like in the Chelsea game, Odegaard was looking a little bit overwhelmed by the occasion, which is understandable. He's a young player, you know, he's really being thrown into it too. So I think I would prefer to see Brennan starting up top on the right. And otherwise, I feel like the team kind of picks itself at this point. I feel like we can probably all agree that we'd rather see Bentancur than Basuma, although neither of them is ideal. And, you know, I feel for Solanke that he's, you know, not getting on the score sheet lately, but I still think he's probably the best option for striker.
And you can see the difference that he makes in the press as well, as Todd alluded to earlier. TC, you got any differences in opinion there? I mean, the midfield to me, Caroline says it picks itself. I think there is still a potential Saar Bergvall conversation to be had, but I mean, I'm actually kind of fine with either one. I think they both give you a lot of energy and pressing ability and
off the bench as well.
Yeah, right. You can literally split the baby there however you want.
Yeah, it really depends on what Ange looks at as far as that midfield matchup for Frankfurt, like who he wants to take out, basically, as to whether or not, like, if they've got a super pacey guy that's going to, you know, put in 16K over the course of a match, like he'll probably get Saar out there. But honestly, I thought the best player on the pitch for us today was Lucas. I thought Lucas Bergvall played his face off. Like, I've been so impressed with his development this season.
I have too. I think that's a really good shout. He's made really good, and he's not going to be the number 10 James Maddison replacement, but that's okay. Like he's proving to be a little bit more versatile in that midfield.
Dude, he's
really
big.
Yeah,
he's big. He's a big kid. Now, did you say that Van de Ven is healthy or is not healthy?
I don't see any reason. I mean, he was on the bench today. I think they were trying to just manage minutes, so I see no reason why.
They said he just had a cramp from the game.
So I want Van de Ven back in because Van de Ven and Romero makes us go. I agree with Kaz, Spence and Porro. Destiny has certainly had a regression this year. I think that if he gets a full preseason and he can stay healthy, that we'll see the best of Destiny next year. I would love to see James Maddison on the bench with the triumphant return of Decky. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
I was questioning you there for a second until I realized where you were going. I was like, wait a second, why? Okay, now I get it. You're hoping for a medical miracle. I understand.
I am. This is what we're hoping for. But in the event that does not occur, I imagine that the midfield is going to be Bergvall, Bentancur, and Maddison. I agree. Solanke and Johnson, but Odebear for Son to start.
Yeah, I'll tell you that it's not going to happen, but I don't disagree with you. Like I fully get what you're saying, and there is a real serious conversation that's going to need to be had here in a few weeks about the future of Heung-min Son, because it is.
And then the wild part,
it simply hasn't been good.
The wild part is that I bring Tell off the bench and leave Son there.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't want to give Son any minutes against a Bundesliga team. Seriously,
I know what you're saying. But it's at home. It's at home. So we save Son for the second leg and then unleash him where he does some boogeyman stuff, as he tends to do in Germany.
Yeah, it's we don't have the time to get into it today, but I'm picking up everything that you're putting down, and I'm it's in a future rundown for sure.
I mean, let me ask you a question, Andrew.
Oh, good. We've reached that portion of the program. I'm appreciative of this. Go on.
Barcelona comes in and says, "I'll give you £75 million for Heung-min Son with 1 year left on his deal." You obviously take it. But what if that number is 35 million? 35 million for Heung-min Son with 1 year left on his deal. Current club captain.
I think you need a little bit more than that, probably. And here's the reason that I say that. I think that there's a legacy factor that that plays in here, and there's a leadership factor. I know people have been critical of
not English. I honest to God think that's the number, bro. I think it's between that and 40, maybe.
I hear you, and that's why I think you just say no. Sonny's an important figurehead at this club and can stick around and play a role. Maybe it won't be wearing the armband every week like he's been doing, but he can have a squad spot for sure. If he feels that he's reached that level, if he still feels like he has a lot of really high quality football left in the tank and wants to go prove that, he's not going to do it at Spurs. He can go do it somewhere else. And by the way, he's not going to do it at Barcelona either. Like,
I disagree entirely. Son runs those little Spanish right backs fucking ragged. Absolutely ragged.
Maybe.
You know, the issue here is that Barcelona
got a pitch full of Brian Heels, bro.
They are not going to have that kind of money.
They're
in some trouble, as always.
Yeah.
Okay, well, make it Real Madrid. I don't give a shit. Like, you get the point.
Can you imagine the backlash, though, if Daniel Levy sells Heung-min Son for £30 million this
That's
summer?
where I wanted to go, because, listen, this week I am deeply in my feelings about Thomas Muller leaving Bayern when he did not want to leave. The club did not offer him a contract. And I think legacy does matter. It has an intangible importance. And I really, truly feel that if we do not let Son retire at Spurs, then something has gone wrong.
See, I don't know that Son's going to retire at Spurs. If Son were to come to America and play in LA or New York, he could extend his career by about 6 or 7 years, extend his fortune by about £500 million, if you want to look at it in that currency, based off of the new endorsement opportunities. Like, I don't think that it's a realistic perspective to think that Son is going to retire at Spurs.
Sonny, by the way, today made his
450th
450th appearance for Spurs. He is 7th all time on that list, just ahead of Hugo Lloris. That's part of what we're talking about here. Is a guy who is obviously going to always be a Spurs legend. I heard somebody earlier in the week, I don't remember who it was, talking about the fact that Sonny is maybe on the verge of getting close to becoming a Spurs legend, and I just kind of scoffed at that. Like, come on, get out of here. He's played the 7th most games in club history. He's definitely in that category.
Won a Golden Boot.
I don't give a shit that he
hasn't
actually won anything from a team standpoint. Like, he's been here for so long. He's been such a part of the culture of this club, and
he started 3 cup finals for us.
I don't know for sure that he is going to retire with Spurs, but I would give him the opportunity to do so if that was what he wanted to do, and that's kind of where I sit on it.
Well, and I do think maybe the conversation changes if we do win the Europa League, which
Sure.
No, I feel so fraught about this whole cup situation. But anyway,
Say more. No. Say more.
No,
This
my
is
point
important.
is, if we win that competition, maybe then he does feel like he can bring his time to the club at a close and go to a league like MLS and not feel like he has unfinished business. But I think that if we do not win that trophy, that just knowing him, I feel like he's going to want at least one more season. And I think, didn't we pick up his option for another season?
We did. We have him for another year.
Right.
Well, and that's why I asked the question, because we're not going to get the money. We're not going to get $30 million for him at the end of next year.
Right.
So,
yeah, and that's where the
he's
juice
more valuable to Spurs for all of these intangible reasons than he is to any other club at this point.
That's where the conversation about the juice not being worth the squeeze comes into the factor.
Well, I think the fact that we're going to the Southeast Asian market for preseason yet again probably has a significant portion to do with that as well. So there's
no doubt about that. You definitely need him for a North London derby in Hong Kong of all places. That's a conversation that we're gonna kick to another podcast because we are running low on time here today. I want to thank everybody for listening. That is going to do it for this episode of the Tottenham Depot. Be sure to check out our episodes on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot, and leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice to help spread the word about the show. We've obviously got Frankfurt on Thursday and then another Premier League match next weekend away to Wolves. So we'll be able to recap both of those coming back. And that should be just an absolute blast, a match that everyone cares about at the Molineux. But no, obviously Thursday will be the big topic, and we'll be back to chat about it all with you next week. You can follow Todd at the Todd Father. You can follow Caroline at CG Stefko. You can follow me at A Stetka. Follow us at Tottenham Depot on all the socials. We'll be back with you next week. Until then, as always, come on, you Spurs.